Hello everyone, welcome back to beating Wizard101 using only Locomotion, or Locomaton, and I'm gonna be switching over to the game right now. So we're on the game. Today we will be doing Triton Avenue. We need to make sure we have Triton Avenue equipped. One moment. I need to... Sorry, my cousin just wanted to bother me for no apparent reason. So, we'll be going to Triton Avenue. I'm checking my level real quick. We're level 7. So I am going to go to my spell deck. Let's remove this spirit shield. I'm going to spell write ourselves Steel Pip. Now that we have Steel Pip, this means getting our locomotion out, and by extent our conductor's whistle out, will take a lot less time. Well, 1 turn less time. So, there's that. I do want to remind all my followers that I do have a YouTube channel where you can see all my past streams in case Twitch removes them. Also, on my YouTube, I might be using the community tab at some point to ask polls on, like, what should we do next, sort of things. Like, when Grizzleheim comes out, I might ask people, should we do Grizzleheim, or should we not? Stuff like that. Not when Grizzleheim comes out, I mean when we do Grizzleheim. But so keep an eye on the YouTube. If you're not subscribed over there, please do. Yeah. What should we talk about today, chat? What should we talk about today? I should have gone into this with an idea of something to communicate about. Guess I'm just bad at life. Let's talk about how I'm bad at life. Actually, let's not do that. Thought it was a good idea, realized probably isn't. Let's talk some more. Let's talk about Wizard101 lore some more. I know we did a good bit of that yesterday. I'm going to pose an alternate timeline that myself and some friends in my guild, the Dauntless Amber Dragons, have been sort of coming up with lately. The alternate timeline of what if the wizard died to a lost soul in Unicorn Way? What if the wizard lost their first fight against the lost soul and died, perished, met their end, was unalived? All that good nonsense. So, in this hypothetical, the wizard is the scion of Bartleby, is the one destined to release Grandfather Spider from his prison. All that. They have all the importance of fate placed upon them. However, they're missing one core thing that would make them succeed. Plot armor. They don't have it. So, they're pulled into Wizard City by Ambrose. They're enrolled in the school. Let's say they're a myth wizard, because myth is kinda... Now, they're a myth wizard in Wizard City. And they go to Unicorn Way, ready to fight some Lost Souls, and the Lost Soul gets him. First thing that would probably arise in this situation is Unicorn Way would likely be overrun, with no one to assist the guard there and Lady Oriole and Saren with the Lost Souls and Skeletal Pirates and Corrupted Pixies. Rattlebones would get his way, Unicorn Way would be overrun. Diego might be able to stand by himself and defend that area right by the gate with the arena, but he'd be spending a lot of time defending that. Next consequence of this, obviously, would be no one would solve the problems in the three streets. Triton Avenue would blow up because the storm conductor would overload. Cyclops Lane would be overtaken and conquered and likely just sort of be ruled by an evil bunny rabbit, I guess. And Bastilla Gravewind would have her way and all the fire elves would die out and Triton Avenue would again be returned to the dead. Undead would flood Wizard City, and it would essentially be an apocalypse-scale event for the world of Wizard City. Likely the power of Bartleby could protect the area within the walls of the school proper, so that might become a bastion. But the commons would be overtaken, the shopping district would be overtaken. Another thing we have to take into account is that I had 3 pips. I did not conductor's whistle. I'm not smart. Was so involved with my storytelling, I forgot to actually play the game proper. Another thing that would happen is you'd actually probably more likely have a war between the undead of Wizard City and the gobblers. Because the gobblers, and in this new Gobblerton, would never be talked down by the wizard, and they would likely push into the shopping district, while the undead would overtake Old Town, and likely also overtake the commons. So you'd have this sort of war ground between the commons and the shopping district, between gobblers and the undead. Wizards would likely be just caught in the crossfires, or just bested, because from what we've seen of the wizards of Wizard City and their interactions with the undead crisis here from the NPCs, they don't do too well. Whatsoever. Don't do too well at all. So, in this situation, Wizard City would fall. To gobblers, to undead, and this would have an immediate effect on a lot of things. Crab Alley would likely remain untouched for a while, until King Thermidor went into the Deep Warrens, and King Amadeo replaces him. Likely story then? Triton Avenue above ground, already a smoldering crater, fit only for the dead to wander, because the storm relay overloaded and blew up. But the Beneath the Waves would be fine until the storm anchor down there, during the Crab Alley storyline, it also blows up, wiping out Crab Alley. Yeah. So Crab Alley would be destroyed. Why am I in Ambrose? Why am I in Ambrose? I thought there were an unusual amount of people around. So, Wizard City would fall. The drains might hold out for a while, because the bugs down there are significantly stronger than the wizard's top side. Likely the trash would never revolt, which would likely never reveal the catacombs. But this would have an effect, because the wizard would never find the catacombs, and certain threats in the catacombs would never be dealt with. Dangerous. So the Devourer would probably continue eating worlds from the edge of the spiral inward, digesting them slowly. That would be bad. If that's not stopped, another worldwide disaster. And Seralith would likely take over the mines of Valencia and drive them to do some horrible things. Because Valencia is just gonna get worse after this, trust me. Next, you have to look at the immediate next world in the timeline, which is Crocotopia. The wizard never arrives. Malaster, the Croconomicon is still sent to Marleybone, but without the wizard there to turn the tides, the Crocs would likely take over. They just conquer Crocotopia. That would be theirs again. Managers would be enslaved. Likely, Marleybonians that were there would be too. And with Malaster's intentions plaguing the Croc's mind, they would immediately build vessels and take their fight to Marleybone proper. Now, Marleybone's a big skyway, and empire-sized at this point in the timeline. So, probably would... Why is it still doing that? I discarded my hit. Oh no. Sorry, gang. Need to pay more attention to what I'm doing. Yikes. So, the Crocs would invade Marleybone. Likely would be decimated by Marleybone's superior technology. Likely. But they'd hold a bastion in Crocotopia. So, that's a thing. Next world. Crocotopia. Next world. Marleybone. To be honest, not a lot would change. Wizard didn't affect the story much there. Anything the wizard did could likely be taken care of by the Marleybone constables. I don't think the wizard was a big role, and we kind of lost there anyways. So, Marleybone mostly stays the same. Mushu. Big news in Mushu. Big problems here. You see, in Mushu, stuff hits the fan. The Onis control the world. They control Mushu completely. Mushu would fall into, again, apocalypse-like situations. Wizard stops a lot of apocalypses. First off, War Oni would have the entire people of Mushu fighting amongst each other for a very long time, while the Plague Oni poisons the water supply slowly and sickens the people. So, racked by plague and war and eventually death. And with the Death Oni controlling the souls of the damned, they'd just come back up and keep fighting. So it would be war and plague, and people would stop dying and keep fighting. All while the Emperor, comatose, is slowly subsumed by the Jade Oni, and the Jade Oni makes itself empowered and stronger and greater until it rises as the new Emperor of Mushu. An Emperor of Mushu possessed by the Jade Oni, leading a plagued, doomed people. At this point, Mushu would look a lot different. It wouldn't be all green and grassy and picturesque. It would be a hellscape with the dead and the rotten and the sickly and the violent, ruled over by a tyrannical, evil Jade Oni warlord. He would take the armies of the dead given to him by the Jade Oni, who bear the plagues of the Plague Oni, and wage war with his general, the War Oni, against the rest of the Spiral. Problems. Now we hit Dragonspire. This is where the biggest problem hits. The biggest dilemma, the biggest boom, pow, oh no. Really not much would change in Dragonspire. All that happens in Dragonspire is the wizard works their way through the levels of Dragonspire security. Plot-wise, everyone there's already dead, but what would happen is the Dragon Titan Fire would wake up. And that spells disaster in a lot of ways. Fire, unopposed by his brother Storm, and Ice would likely rage across the Spiral. Dragonspire would be... every world would slowly turn into a vague facsimile of Dragonspire. Now let's turn our eyes to Grizzleheim for a second. As the Dragon Titan rages across the Spiral, Marleybone is Marleybone, the Crocs rage against the Spiral, and the deathly, evil version of Mushu's armies also try to conquer the Spiral. A lot of war in this timeline. Grizzleheim would also see a terrible fate. Without the wizard to reveal the Raven's treachery, war would tear Grizzleheim apart. Grendels would run rampant. Wolves and bears would be at each other's throats. And most importantly, the Ravens would win. They would likely wake up Ice, without Grandmother Raven to stop them, because keep in mind, the wizard is the one who frees Grandmother Raven from her imprisonment. Without Grandmother Raven to stop them, without the wizard to intervene, Ice wakes up. The Jotuns win. Ice waking up causes more problems. Ice would wake up, look to the rest of the spiral, and see that its brother Fire is raging rampant, tearing the place up. So it would fight Fire. The armies of the Jotuns and the armies of the dragons would clash, tearing each other apart. And many worlds in the spiral would be caught in the crossfires. Not only do you have a plague army of just horror with Mushu, you have ice and fire fighting, destroying worlds in their wake. Now we move on. And that's the whole first arc stuff. If you want to really think about what would happen in the Spiral Cup, I'll tell you what would happen in the Spiral Cup. We'd have a different representative from Wizard City, one who is likely incompetent as hell, and the plants would pretty much destroy the city. The Lord Bramble, or whatever his name is, I forget, would have the plants, the vines, the Tanglewood men overtake the city. Spiral Cup would be ruined, and Pigswick Falls. Oh, look at that! This is the worst timeline. Next, let's look into Arc 2. Marlebonians would likely not fare as well as they did in Celestia. They likely wouldn't discover much of the secrets that they did with the help of the wizard, and they would probably just leave at some point. Either that or the native inhabitants of Celestia, the ghostly Celestians, the Stellar Protectors, the Pisceans, the Crustaceans, would all 1-2 punch the Marlebonians out of there. And the secrets of Celestia would remain secret, likely. And Morganth would likely be deterred by the Celestians as she was in the past. I don't think Morganth would acquire any great victory in Celestia. And again, in every world, Morganth wins, we fail, pretty much. With the exception of Avalon and Chrysalis. So, in Zafaria, likely no students would be sent on a field trip to Zafaria in the first place, because Wizard City had fallen. And Morganth's machinations would go unopposed. The Spider Temple would rise, and the people would fall under its thrall. The mirror will break. She'll get her deck of shadows back. It's just a bigger win for her in this situation. Next, we have to deal with what happens after Zafaria. Do we go straight to Avalon after Zafaria? I feel like there's another world there. Celestia, Zafaria, Avalon, and Chrysalis. What? No. Yes, we go straight to Avalon. So, we go to Avalon. Well, nothing. Avalon falls to the darkness, to the Fell Fae, to the Pendragon. Arthur would never be cured, the Pendragon would rule, chaos reigns. That world falls to its own drama without the wizard's intervention. Next, Azteca. Azteca's a doomed world. The wizard makes no difference there. Azteca's still doomed. It still gets destroyed. Move on. Do note that likely Morganth would see no reason to resurrect Malistaire, because she doesn't need him to help deal with the wizard, because there is no wizard. Council of Light would likely die off in the events that would transpire in the fall of Wizard City. No new council would be formed, so she'd be unopposed for most of the start. Morganth would... Now in Chrysalis... Okay, in Chrysalis... the Burrower's Rebellion would fail. Lastwood would fall. Bastion would remain a crystal prison graveyard. The Mantises would never wisen up, and they would follow Morganth forever. Likely the Burrowers in the desert would be killed off. But here's a key problem that affects the rest of the arcs. Grandfather Spider would never be freed from his prison, because the quote-unquote chosen, his prophecy foretold, is dead. So with the chosen dead, and he would never be freed. He would be trapped in the prison Raven put him in forever. And I think that's a fun dichotomy. Raven remains trapped in the prison the Ravens put her in, and Grandfather Spider remains trapped in the prison Raven put him in. The big primordial beings remain trapped except the Titans, who are free to run rampant. Now, without anyone to oppose Morganth, she would likely still lose of her own accord. Because it is of my firm belief that Morganth couldn't control shadow magic as well as she thought she could. I feel like the power of the Song of Creation would burn her up and kill her regardless of whether the wizard intervened or not. It wasn't the wizard who defeated Morganth, it was Morganth's own ineptitude. She's not a good shadow wizard. She barely can control astral magic, if at all. And the Song of Creation would just destroy her. She wouldn't be able to stop it from consuming her every being. She'd fail to rewrite the spiral in her own image. And without the power at the center of the power, and with the revealed power vacuum in Chrysalis, and no one to fill it, Chrysalis would likely fall into a vast war between the Mantises, the Hundred-Leggers, and the Arachne. Big war would break out. And likely, that world would also be destroyed by either ice or fire or both. Now, I want to bring up something I brought up earlier. Grandfather Spider is never freed. The Chosen died, thus he cannot be freed. Thus his 3 children, Spider, Rat, and Scorpion, would never be freed. The events of Polaris wouldn't be as bad. I don't think the Penguin Revolution would ever kick off. Either that, or there would be a peaceful transfer of power between the Walrus and the Penguin, because Rasputin, or the Rat, isn't there to heighten tensions between the two people. Without Rasputin to mess up everything, I think everyone would be fine. May not fine in the wake of Titans fighting, but they'd be better off. At this point, you have to think about, what are the Lupulum doing in all this? I think the Lupulum would be searching for Grandmother Raven, and trying to free her. They are looking for where to find her. They're trying to free her so that she and Bartleby can sing the Titanic lullaby, lull the Titans to sleep, and re-sing the Song of Creation to repair the spiral and the damage the Titans had caused. So, that's a thing. Alufla might be doing that. Maybe. Don't know. Another thing we have to keep in note, the Cabal would also likely not be much involved here, because Grandfather Spider would never reach out to them or get them involved. And the Arcanum would likely not be very... And the Arcanum would likely be helping the Lufulum to... The Arcanum would likely be helping the Lufulum to find Raven and free her. Next, in all the motion put in place by Grandfather Spider in Mirage, and by extension his son, would also never matter. Nothing would happen in Mirage. Then Imperia. No one would ever bother with Imperia. Without Grandfather Spider Tree, Imperia retains its duty of defending Grandfather Spider's heart from anyone who would wish to free it. Grandfather Spider never wishes to free it. And I think Imperia would be vastly left alone. I don't think the Titans, without Raven or Spider's help, would be able to pierce the Aether. So it would be safe. There wouldn't be an uprise in Shadow. So I think Xanadu would be fine. There wouldn't be a Shadow apocalypse there. There wouldn't be discord in the Nimbus area. The dwarves might fight amongst each other still, but they always do that. So Imperia would be fine. Caramel, likely the witches, the workers against corporate hegemony, would likely succeed at their plan much faster. Because for the first half of Caramel, the wizard was trying to thwart the witches, and doing a really good job at it. In addition to this, cavities would never appear, because there would be no divine paradox. The nothing would never be lured into the something by the divine paradox. So no cavities, no design, just workers' rights movement. And next world is gonna be Lemuria. I believe that without the wizard intervening and a cavity eating the old one would genuinely make peace with the Arcanum and be able to save Lemuria in the way he knew how. We wouldn't have Design working as an intermediary. He'd be able to get into his old office, restore whatever circuitry to keep his experiment going, so on and so forth. Lemuria would probably be far better off in the old one's hands than it was in either Design's or the wizard's. Next. I believe we'd have to look at... Well, Novus just wouldn't happen. There would be no Novus because there would be no Design. So in the end, I believe the Cabal, the Arcanum, and the Lufulum, all working together, would find Grandmother Raven in Winter Tusk, free her, and Bartleby would sing the Titanic lullaby together and patch up the spiral with the Song of Repair, basically. A lot of worlds would be lost. And a lot of war would take place. The Titans would be solved. Likely, evil Mushu is still a threat to the spiral. Likely, the Crocs are still a threat to the spiral. But without the Titans fighting, people can get a hand on that much firmer. Now we want to turn to how would the Pirate 101 timeline change? Without a violent and bloody revolution like the one caused by the wizard in Polaris, likely Napoleon would never rise to power, which means likely the Armada would never be made. However, fortunately, we can substitute Napoleon and Polaris as the threat that caused the creation of the Armada. We can substitute that for this new evil Mushu. So, in the new timeline, in the darker timeline, evil Mushu is what caused the creation of the Armada. The Armada would put the possessed Jade Emperor down. Lot of stuff would function more or less the same, I feel. Although Yum might not be a thing. For the reason of Mushu is a blasted land, I don't think the Yum Yum tree would survive the Plague Oni or the Death Oni. Don't think it would. So, a thing was pointed out to me that likely the pirate wouldn't exist in that timeline where the wizard didn't exist. For the following reason. In the timeline where the wizard was unalived by a lost soul, the wizard wouldn't be there to go into the 5 boxes and free Boochbeard and Gantry, allowing them to free the pirate. Boochbeard, Gantry, and the pirate would all be unalived by the Armada for their crimes, and likely Avery would just find someone else to get him the stuff. Eldorado drama would probably play kind of similar. We might see more of a darker version of events there. Like, obviously, Mushu is gonna be replaced with Polaris in the narrative. Likely, but it might not. We might visit Mushu, and it's a horrible place. The dead, and the warring, and it might just be the worst place to be. It might replace Valencia, but I don't think it will. I think, narratively, Polaris would replace Mushu and fill the same sort of role in finding the map to Eldorado and fighting the Armada. Forgive me if this isn't the best interpretation of the timeline. I just think this is what would happen if the wizard were to be unalived by a lost soul at the beginning of the game. That would just be what happens. That is the darkest timeline of Wizard 101. If I overlooked anything, feel free to chat about it in the stream or comment it in the comments. But that's the darkest timeline I can see for Wizard 101 and Pirate 101. A timeline where the wizard falls. But in a lot of ways, it's actually a better timeline. And let me say why it's a better timeline. And this is a kind of simple reason, I'd say. Or not really a simple reason, but like this is why it's not the absolute darkest timeline. It's because without the wizard to free Grandfather Spider, Raven and Spider would never fight over the fate of the universe, and Raven would work together with Bartleby to solve the Triton threat. While Wizard City falls, and a lot of worlds would fall that don't, the threat of the Nothing and the threat of Grandmother Raven, the whole Arc 3 and Arc 2, the whole Arc 3 and Arc 4 threats would not be a problem. They wouldn't be faced, neither would a lot of the threats in the catacombs. Likely, it would be somewhat better for the world, but it might also be worse. If this is the darkest timeline, probably. Probably as bad as it can get. But could it be worse? Yes. It would be worse if, let's say, I'm wrong, and without the wizard's intervention, Morganth is completely capable of rewriting the spiral. But even then, Morganth has shown a very strong lack of knowledge about how things actually work. So chances are, she'd just shimmy around where worlds are, and make the predominant religion be focused on her, instead of, like, Bartleby or Grandmother Raven. I don't think a lot would change, because I'm fairly certain Morganth doesn't even know about most worlds. Like, would Morganth care about Darkmoor? Would Morganth care about Cool Ranch? I don't think so. So that might be a far better timeline than the one where the wizard dies, if Morganth succeeds at rewriting the Song of Creation. Because she likely would deal with the Titan threat as well, by putting them under her control. But she'd deal with the threat. Another place where the timeline could go worse is if the Cabal and the Arcanum can't make amends and aid the Vigilance in finding Grandmother Raven. I don't know if the Vigilance would be able to free Grandmother Raven without their help. So if Grandmother Raven's never freed, the Titans would just destroy everything, which would be bad with a capital B. Real threat there. Let me see, any other thoughts? Don't got anything else, really. That's the, Wizard 101's darkest timeline that I just thought up. Let's talk about something different. If we've got any viewers in the chat, if we've got any chatters, what do you guys think I should talk about? What do you guys think I should chat about. I think I'm going to talk about deep in thought. Sorry. If I could make a pet, let's talk about or actually, let's talk, I know what we're going to talk about. I was recently uploading my last stream to my YouTube channel when I see a video by this guy called Tap. Or Tap Water. I don't know what he wants to be called. I'm going to call him Tap, because that's what his YouTube channel is called. And watching this video, I'm like, this guy mods Wizard101. Is that allowed? Turns out, visual modifications might be allowed? Question mark? We're just changing visual things? So I've been thinking, maybe I'm going to reach out to him, see if he can... I mean, he has a Patreon, so I think I might, when I have some money, because I'm kind of not well off financially, but when I have some money, I'm thinking I'm going to contact him on his Patreon. Oh no! Oh no! We have to flee, guys. If we don't have the automaton, how can the automaton hit? I'm thinking of contacting him and seeing if he can make our Locomaton something slightly different. See if that's a mod we can do. Where, like, we make the Locomaton, let's just say, hypothetically, we make the Locomaton Mithraea from Celestia. I'd love that. I'd love for the Locomaton to be Mithraea from Celestia. Also, give us, like, some Sun School icons. That'd be nice. I think I'd like that. Like, make a little sorcerer icon here. Say, have a sun icon, instead of saying sorcerer, it says enchanter. I think that would be cool. If that's a thing he can do, I'm gonna give him money when I have some. But I don't right now. But look forward to that in the future. We might do a reveal where either he helped me make that mod myself, or he made that mod. It's an idea that I'm sort of playing around with. You might see the Locomaton go through a couple form changes in the future. Just telling you, so that you know that that's coming up, potentially. And if you guys would like that, let me know. I might make my own Patreon or something for you to donate money to me to. I don't have one now. I probably should make one. A Patreon or a Coffee or just some donation platform. I might make one. And that would be helpful for, like, the channel. Maybe. I don't know. Might also get some professional... And if I do get money, or, like, start that donation thing, maybe we'll get better thumbnails for the YouTube channel. Because right now I'm just throwing them together, and we're fighting a rotting fodder instead of a scarlet screamer, aren't we? Guess we're fighting a rotting fodder now. So that's an idea. I really like the idea of turning the Locomaton into Mithraea. I really like the idea of making us sun wizards. I just like that idea. If it can't be done, it can't be done. But that's a fun idea I'm playing around with, and if it happens, I'll be sure to show you guys on stream. Will be likely the stream where we turn our locomotion into Mithraea is gonna be titled something different than Wizard101 beating area with Locomaton only. So, just keep an eye out. Let's see, what else can I talk about? I'm thinking, I'm pondering, wondering, conspiring. What shall I talk about with you guys today? Or tonight, rather. It's night for me. I always stream at night. I've often been asked, I make a lot of gear and a lot of equipment. I don't often, make stories for Wizard101. And to that I'd say, yes, I do. But who wants to hear my Wizard101 fanfiction? I mean, I guess that's what my whole The Wizard Pirate Disconnect thing was, and my whole The Darkest Timeline thing was. I guess that's kind of fanfiction. I guess I could share a story of an original character of mine. A Wizard101 OC, if you will. Character's name is Orpheus Shadowsong. They were a wizard from Chrysalis. This is a long time ago. Before Morganth even arrived in Chrysalis, so long, long ago. And they lived with the Arachna and were the caretaker of Grandfather Spider's prison. They spent a lot of time there, and they would often chat with Grandfather Spider, who would tell them stories of the old world, and tales of before the Titan War, and all sorts of other stuff like that. One day, Grandfather Spider told Orpheus a prophecy. Let me just pull up the Actually, I think I have the prophecy memorized. I'm fairly certain I have the prophecy memorized. So here's the prophecy. Sky and land are danced as one. Wait. Yes, sky and land are danced as one. Below the tree of magic shade, 1,000 years, 1,000 more, memories of love and fury fade. Spider and Raven danced across the sky and battled across the land. 1,000 years, 1,000 more, memories of love and fury fade. It's essentially, it's the prophecy, it's the great prophecy from Chrysalis. It's the prophecy that depicts Spider's return, and is often misquoted by Morganth. That signature quote, "The mirror will break, the horn will call, from the shadows I strike and the skies will fall." often misquoted by Morgan. But so he's told the prophecy by Grandfather Spider, and Grandfather Spider encourages him to go searching the spiral for the chosen. Go out into the world and search. So he gets a little boat. He works with the burrower craftsmen and the spiders to spin a sail. And he sails out into the world to find the chosen. He goes from world to world searching. He arrives. He goes from Azteca to Avalon to Zafaria to Celestia, until eventually he arrives at Dragonspire. And at this point, it's a lush green world with flowing water and a great school of magic. And the people here had so much magical potential that Orpheus thought he might find the chosen among them. So he spent a few years with them, teaching them of the Grandfather Spider and the ways of Shadow. However, after 2 years among them, something terrible happens. The people of Dragonspire had summoned Fire, the Dragon Titan, and the fall of Dragonspire was taking place. He managed to flee to Mushu, along with a few other elite families. However, Dragonspire, the water turned to magma. The air turned to smoke and ash. The ground turned to obsidian, and the trees burnt in the blistering heat. In Mushu, he stayed and recovered for many years. But eventually, he resumed his search. He traveled from Mushu to Marleybone, but he saw no chosen there. Then he went to Crocotopia, a slumbering world with only manders and a few old crocs. They had told him that they had just put the people of this world to sleep for their tyranny. And he was impressed by the Order's power. But it was clear that this Order of Crocs was not the chosen. So he went further to the world of Wizard City. A world full of wizards and magicians, just as great as Dragonspire, but more peaceful, less warlike, less prone to the great catastrophes that wrought Dragonspire low. So, in this new place, he took up residence, searching for the one. And while he was there, he began teaching any students who were interested little about the art of Shadow. And he met someone there named Morganth, who was very interested. However, she was found out. She did not tell Ambrose where she learned the power that he taught her, so he was safe from Ambrose's wrath, but she was expelled, sent out to search the world. And yet a few years later, the life professor, Sylvia Drake, grew sick and frail and old, and from a dire cold that plagued her. And she died, and her husband, distraught with rage at the loss of his wife, blew up his own school, the Death School, and supposedly died with it. And then, no more than a few days later, a new student arrived at Wizard City, at Ravenwood. A student, a young wizard, who had more than just the potential inherent in magic. They had a spark, a certain otherworldliness to them. And they set out to solve the undead plague that had been plaguing the city. And Orpheus kept a close eye on the wizard, until it was that he was found out by... until his practice of shadow magic was found out by the headmaster, Ambrose, who had outright forbade the practice of shadow magic in his school. And, as such, Orpheus was expelled, banished from Wizard City. So, Orpheus set out to keep his eye on the worlds and the wrath that the now known to be alive Death Professor had been raging. He found that wizard again in Crocotopia, where the wizard learned the power of balance. And the wizard followed, and Orpheus followed the wizard, aiding them from time to time with their battles, helping them where they needed some extra divine intervention. Not that Orpheus was divine, but his patron certainly was. But he found out. But eventually they had to leave each other, the wizard and Orpheus. But he closely followed the wizard's progress, subtly nudging events, guiding them towards the desired outcome of the wizard arriving in Chrysalis and freeing Grandfather Spider. However, when he returned home to Chrysalis, he had found it a very changed place. No longer did the different tribes of insects and burrowers live in harmony. Now, Morganth, that student he taught of shadow magic not long ago, from his eyes, had taken over. And with Morganth taken over, Orpheus hid. The spiders he once lived with were unfamiliar to him. The burrowers were an underclassman instead of practitioners of astral magic as they were. Much had changed in his absence. Much had changed indeed. Eventually the wizard arrived, aided by a council of light. And together, Orpheus and the wizard ousted Morganth from Chrysalis and freed his patron. And that's the story of Orpheus. Together, he and the wizard and another band of wizards together formed a guild of sorts, and fought many terrible foes, such as the Crying Sky and the Nullity of the Void. And that's the story of Orpheus, my Wizard101 original character. who's just sort of been in the background and been at every major event, I guess. Which I guess is kind of implausible. But, you know. Shadow magic. Don't worry about it. Why is my happiness so low? I don't remember casting Sun Shield that much. I was going to use it in this fight. The Harvest Lord fight marks. We're almost done with Triton Avenue, so just need a short bit of something to talk about. Short bit of something to talk about. What should I talk about, I wonder? Oh, here's a little fun bit of trivia. I, along with another couple friends of mine, was wanted to play like a tabletop role-playing game set in the Spiral. And I was like trying to think of like how would we do that? D&D doesn't quite lend itself to it, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And I was thinking, like, maybe the Modifus Entertainment 2D20 system would lend itself towards it, which I thought would be, like, kind of cool. So, I have been sort of making my own version of the 2D20 system for the Spiral. Not actually going to put this out there. This is probably just going to be used by me and my friends, but it's just been a thing I've been tinkering with. Don't intend to sell it, don't intend to publish it, because, 1, I don't have any sort of deal with Modifus Entertainment. 2, I don't have any sort of deal with King's Isle. So, I can't make this an official thing. I won't. Maybe I can post it as, like, fan content somewhere, but I don't know how making a whole book. I don't know how that would work legally. So for now, I'm just gonna keep it between myself and my friends. But maybe if it comes up, I might make it more readily available. Maybe? I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing people want. I don't know if that's a thing I can make legally. But this is just some ideas I've had. I'm excited for the new world to come out for Wallaroo. I'm also excited for the summer update. Name changes and gender swapping. I know a lot of people are going to like that. An awful lot of people, probably. But I think that I don't know what I think about all the spell audits going on and all the we want to make Rochambeau and PvP very hard and such, and like, for one, I hate that they banned shadow spells. Hate it. Hate that they banned astral spells. Hate it. And now they're doing this wacky thing with spell-limited AoE spells. And like making it so you have to divide for it to be legal in PvP. I know that's enraged a lot of people, but like I primarily play player versus entity PvE myself, mostly. because to me, PvP doesn't hold much appeal. I don't like fighting other people. Community can get kind of toxic, and also I don't get to play the ways I like to play in PvE due to all the spell bans. I can't be a Sun Wizard who only fights with my conjured Locomaton in PvP. I can't be a Shadow Wizard who only hits with shadow spells in PvP. I can't do these fun tertiary school builds in PvP, and I just don't like it. It's not my thing, and I particularly hate that they're making raids function by the same rules that PvP functions. It makes it so that I can't play the character I want to when raiding with my friends. I have to be relegated to a position like Puzzle Team, also known as Drums, in the Nullity raid, and I outright can't do the Crying Sky raid, because I don't have that optimal PvP gear setup, because I'm set up gear-wise to be a Shadow Wizard on my max level. I'm set up to be a wizard who is of the Shadow. It's my Orpheus character. Alright? My Orpheus character is my Shadow Wizard. And I'm set up to be a Shadow Wizard. It's just, I can't play these events with my friends in the way I want to. And it's just not fun for me. It's fun to play things with my friends. It's fun to see the cool drops. And I kinda do... Oh, that's Guildenstern. I kinda do want the Hun House set for my Shadow Wizard purely for a Stitch, because aesthetically the Hun House set looks Shadow AF, and I love it. So, I don't know. If you guys... So thank you for being here with me for this journey. Thank you for listening to me rant on about the worst timeline in my personal OC little fanfiction self-insert for the Wizard101 timeline. Thanks for listening. I might write a story for our lovely character here. How did she get the locomotion? Where is it from? What school is she? Where is she from? I might make that. I might craft that with you guys, my community. Who knows? That might be what we talk about next stream. So, thank you for watching. And I'll likely see you tomorrow night. Thank you, goodbye, and I hope everyone has a fantastic time.